Hi guys, what's up? For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Cristina. My family and I have just moved to Sao Paulo, Brazil. By the way, Sao Paulo is the largest city in the southern and in the western hemisphere and the world's 7th largest city by population. I'm planning on doing some videos on how things are going here for us, what difficulties you might have if you ever decide to walk in our footsteps, etc. For starters, today we are going to talk about 5 things you need to prepare for your trip. How to get here, the first one, which airplanes fly here and prices, what documents you need to get here, what challenges you might face, how long you can legally stay in Brazil, and what should be done before arriving in Brazil. First one, how to get here, which planes fly here. We flew on a KLM flight via Amsterdam. The tickets were originally purchased from Air Portugal. The flight was cancelled 3 months after the purchase. There are also some flights through Turkey or Qatar by Turkish Airlines, if I'm not mistaken, but according to reviews, they often get cancelled. And honestly, during the pandemic, no one gives guarantees, although the cost of the tickets from Air Portugal was returned to us. Since the flight is really long, 4 hours to Amsterdam and 12 hours to Sao Paulo, I recommend buying tickets for the business class or at least the premium economy. Prices vary a lot. On average, it costs about $570 for economy class and $2,000 for business. You can also pay a bit to upgrade your economy seat to a premium option. It is about a quarter of the original price. What documents are needed? When checking in for a flight, they ask for a PCR test to be done no later than 72 hours before departure. The test is needed in English, and it's enough to show it on your phone, scan or PDF. When checking in, you also need to fill out an Anvisa application form. Since there are a lot of questions there, I'd recommend doing this in advance, for example, a day before departure. After completing the questionnaire, confirmation of its passage comes to the email, which is also enough to show on your phone. The questionnaire is filled out for each passenger, including children. A PCR test is not required for children under 12 years of age if they are flying with an accompanying person who has a PCR test. When checking in, they ask to show the return ticket and confirmation of the hotel reservation. Another interesting thing here, if you are not sure when you will fly back, it is enough to book a ticket for the return flight without a payment. As a rule, they need to be paid within 24 hours. In case of non-payment, the reservation is cancelled. Very convenient. A hotel reservation is also needed for 1 day or more. The main thing here is that it's there at all. The PCR test is also checked upon arrival in Brazil. What difficulties have arisen or may arise? If all of the above requirements are met, there should be no difficulties with the documents. Difficulties with the weather are quite possible though. You shouldn't forget that in the southern hemisphere, winter and summer are reversed. Therefore, the summer months here are December, January and February. And the most important thing is that the climate of Brazil is very different. In the north, the tropics. In the south, during the winter months, snow is possible. Yep. Here, the climate in São Paulo is rather mild, but it can be also cold. We arrived on October 18th, and the temperature was 13 degrees during the day. Therefore, do not repeat our mistakes. Check the weather in advance and take clothes appropriate for the weather. At 13 degrees, it's really cold without a jacket, trust me on this. How long can you legally stay in Brazil? For most European countries, including Russia, it is possible to visit Brazil without a visa for up to 90 days with a subsequent extension at the registration office for another 90 days. After that, foreigners are required to leave the country. You can call in again only 6 months later with the same conditions. The process of obtaining a work, study or another visa, which will allow you to stay here for a longer period of time, is being looked into As soon as there is more information about it, I will let you guys know. What should be done before arriving in Brazil? Very important for Brazil, CPF document is a taxpayer identification number. As opposed to its usage back in Russia, here it's required everywhere. To buy a SIM card, if you put a bike in the parking lot in a shopping center, to order a taxi when checking into a hotel, and even, not always, when buying goods in a store. It's quite simple to obtain one. For this, you need to fill out a form on the website of the Receita Federal Ministry, send a passport photo, selfie with the passport, and send a request by email to this ministry. A few days later, the CPF arrives. The difficulty is that in order to successfully use your CPF, it must be in the database. The database is updated irregularly for different services. For some, once a month. For others, it may be once every 3 months. So it would be better to tackle this question in advance, ideally a couple of months before your trip. Also, an important point about money. I personally would not recommend taking a lot of cash with you if you are traveling to Sao Paulo, since the exchange rate for dollars in exchange offices here is higher than if you pay by credit card. I'll tell you more about it in my next video. I hope it was useful for you. Have a nice day, guys, and see you next time.